Welcome to another Cheeky Scientist Industry Career Podcast. I'm Isaiah Henkel, your host, and today we have on Donna Serdula. Donna is a LinkedIn profile writer and LinkedIn profile optimization specialist. She specializes in crafting engaging, targeted, and highly compelling LinkedIn profiles. We've worked with Donna as part of the Cheeky Scientist Association, and she is incredible at helping PhDs craft their LinkedIn profiles so that they get noticed by recruiters and hiring managers. And she's going to share a lot of her tips and strategies with you during this podcast. Donna also has a best-selling book called LinkedIn Makeover: Professional Secrets to a Powerful LinkedIn Profile. And during this podcast, a lot of different topics are going to be touched on, including everything from helping you create the right profile picture to show that you have industry credibility and you're not just another academic, how to create a headline that's both professional and personable, how to create a summary that is very engaging and displays results that you've achieved that, again, are also packed with the keywords that hiring managers and recruiters will be able to key in on and find. So lots of different topics covered. This is a great podcast. Again, special thank you to our Cheeky Scientist associates. You guys will continue to get all of the live webinars and podcasts and the full-length podcasts sent to you and sent to you first. For the rest of you, we are starting to send these out so that you can get the information you need to transition into the industry position that you want. So we have on Donna Serdula today, and we're going to get started and jump right into the podcast. Okay, so Donna, thanks for coming on today. I appreciate this. And a first question that I have, and this is a question that I've gotten a lot too, is that LinkedIn has seemed to have taken over the professional world. There's no really escape from it, and we hear a lot of different conflicting views. That LinkedIn matters when it comes to getting employed. That LinkedIn doesn't matter. Some employers don't look at these. Don't look at social media. But I do think it's highly influential. I've seen it, give people jobs. It's a great networking tool. If people want to present themselves effectively in the corporate world, is LinkedIn useful? And can you tell us about why it's so important, or if it's important, to have a LinkedIn profile today in today's world?
Well, I believe that LinkedIn is absolutely imperative in this day and age. There's 313 million users currently on LinkedIn, so they have quite an audience. But what I think is most important is that it's a professional audience. And so we're not dealing with kids, right? We're not dealing with just people posting pictures of their favorite soccer teams. We're really dealing with people who are career focused, and LinkedIn isn't just a social network; it's a professional network, and it's a sales tool. It's a job tool, and the one thing you have to recognize is the power of branding. And in this day and age, it's a Google world. At one time, you had a problem, you needed a solution, you'd go to the library or you'd open up an encyclopedia. Nowadays, you just go to your computer, you go to your phone, and you Google it. And so people are Googling you, they're researching you, and you can control how they perceive you through your LinkedIn profile, because more often than not, when people Google you, they're Googling your name and not Googling your company. And so when they hit your LinkedIn profile, this is the story that you have to tell. This is how you want people to perceive you. And that's very, very powerful.
That's a great answer, and I completely agree. I call it controlling the conversation, and that's exactly what you said, and I really like your explanation. And a funny story for myself: when I first started looking for my first career after graduate school, I had not considered LinkedIn or any of the other tools, and then somebody told me, what, your interviewers are probably Googling your name as soon as they get your resume. And I was like, what? I wonder what comes up. So I typed in my name. And it was something from like 5 years ago about me losing some sports match from however long it said, and the first line was, Isaiah Henkel loses big. And this is the first thing they were saying. Yeah, so, but you're right, you can control the conversation with LinkedIn.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you think about it, what do most people do? They copy and paste their resume. And then you look at the resumes, and your LinkedIn profile is not your resume. Your LinkedIn, your resume is just your professional past. It's what you've done. And more often than not, when people copy and paste their resume into their LinkedIn profile, they do it like 3 years ago, and so it's already dreadfully out of date and dull and boring, as as you can believe. And so when people do search and they find this out of date, dull, resume, it's not inspiring. It's not interesting. It really, people want to learn more about you. So don't just, rehash that resume. Really give them something that's different, something that's compelling. And you're like I said, your resume is your professional past. Your LinkedIn profile is your career future. It's who you are. It's why a person should like you. It's your digital introduction. It's your first impression. Really make it shine.
So should people just copy their resume and paste it into their LinkedIn profile?
Never. Not even if you're looking for a job. What you really want to do is you want to look at your LinkedIn profile and you want to say to yourself right up front, what is my goal? What am I trying to do? Who is my target audience? And what are my keywords? And once you have those answers to those 3 questions, then you can write very strategically in that direction for that audience. And, that's the problem most people have is they look at their LinkedIn profile and they just fill out the fields. But when you fill out the fields, you're just writing what you want to say. You're not writing what other people need to know about you to form the right impression, to form the right opinion of you. And so, you really do want to be very strategic, and you want to think in terms of what it is that you're trying to accomplish. Only then can you reach that goal.
Great. Well, okay, let's say you have the perfect LinkedIn profile. So what do you do from there? How do you go about connecting? I get a lot of questions about how you should connect on LinkedIn, and if you should only connect to people you already know, or should you accept invitations from strangers? Maybe you can help us out in this area.
Well, there are 2 schools of thought, right? There's the close networkers, and then there's the open networkers. And the close networkers say, I'm only going to connect to the people that I am close to, people that I know and I trust, I've met, I feel good about. And those people have a very small, tight, close-knit network. And that's awesome. It gives a lot of benefit. Because you know that you can recommend everyone there, you can reach out, you can really see those inside connections because you know those people, and that's a wonderful thing. But there is a reason to think in terms of perhaps widening that network, and the reason for that is a lot of times people are on LinkedIn because they want to find opportunity. And when you want to find opportunity, that means getting found by people who are looking for someone like you. It's also finding people who can help you. Now, typically, these are people that you don't already know and trust, because if you already knew and trust them, you would have reached out to them, right? So with LinkedIn, when you search LinkedIn, you are not searching the entire LinkedIn database. You are only searching your network. Your network extends 3 degrees out. It's the people you know, those people that are your first degree, the people that they know, and the people they know. And so if you want to be found by more people, you need to be in more networks. And so it would behoove you to connect with people that you don't always know so well, or maybe you don't trust so well, or maybe you just don't, but be open. And what I say is this: you can be a conservative open networker. I mean, I'm in no way saying that you just go out willy-nilly, connect low and wide, but what you want to do is if a person does want to connect with you, you might not know them, check out their profile. If they look hinky, no worries, don't connect. But if they look like a professional, someone who could potentially help you or might know people that you might want to know, connect with them. Why not? Right? When you go to a networking event, you don't just, stay in the corner talking to the people you know and trust. No, you venture out. You shake hands. You kiss babies. That's the power of networking. That's how you find opportunity. And that's, a good idea with LinkedIn is to vary up that network a little bit.
I agree. That's a great synopsis. Thanks. And my rule is if they have a picture, I'll usually accept. No picture,
me
probably
too.
not.
Yeah, I feel the same way. If a person won't post a picture, they're hiding something. They're not really
Yeah.
serious, and so
Yes.
that's usually for me.
Okay, so you have a profile. You've been networking. Things are growing. Going really well. When do you need to start, maybe making some changes or additions to your profile so you can continue, to build up your LinkedIn presence?
Sure. Well, with LinkedIn, fresh profiles fare better in search results. And so it actually is a good idea to go in every couple weeks and maybe even more often than not and just put a little changes in there every now and then, because with LinkedIn, as a person does these keyword searches, LinkedIn is looking and they're saying, wait, this person has just refreshed, they just updated their profile. Clearly, this information is really fresh and they're active and they're serious. I'm going to bump them up to the top of the search results.
Really?
So it's actually a good thing to update your profile, a little bit more often than you'd probably think about. But here's the other thing. You have to recognize, it's when you do your LinkedIn profile, it's just a snapshot during that time, right? But you're always changing, you're always growing, and you do want to make sure that, other than those tiny little tweaks that I'm talking about, but you also want to make sure that your profile does reflect you, who you are. And so as you get awards and honors, as you keep going with your experience, you're always going in there and you're making sure that your LinkedIn profile is reflective of who you are today.
Okay. Well, yeah, and what about the opposite? Are there things that you should keep out? So we talked about the awards, honors, putting those in, adding to it. If you have a break in employment, a gap year, what should you put in this case, or should you just not put anything in?
Well, I think you have to be strategic, and you really have to figure out what actually represents you, what reflects you in the best manner. And in certain situations, it's a good idea to have that that little in between job represented. But maybe a year or two afterwards, that's something that you can wipe free. It doesn't really take you to that next level, so you can wipe that one off. But it really is just about how do you want to present yourself, what makes sense to that portrait of who you are, how you want to be perceived. And so, sometimes you want to keep it in, sometimes you don't. I mean, I think it was just last year I had gone through my experiences, and I wiped out a few of those because it doesn't really add up to the sum total of how I want to be perceived. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I'm really fascinated by this idea of keyword optimization. So, how would, as an example, I work with a lot of people that are trying to transition from academia into industry, into these industry type jobs, corporate type jobs, nonprofit environments. Where can they get started with a keyword strategy for doing that? What kind of advice would you have for someone in that situation, going from, let's say, getting out of college or getting even a higher level degree like a PhD and going into business?
What they have to do is they have to recognize that when people are sourcing for a job, they don't know your name. But they do know the skill sets, the keywords, the abilities, the strengths that a person that would be perfect for this position should have. And so what they're going to do is they're not going to type in their name, they're going to type in these keywords. And what you want to do is you really want to figure out, okay, what are these keywords for these jobs that I want to get into.
Yes.
Once you understand what those skill sets are, those strengths, those core competencies, basically the keywords, you want to make sure that you infuse those keywords into your profile. And the thing here, and this is what you really need to remember, is a profile cannot be found for keywords that aren't in there, right? So your profile will never get found for keywords that aren't already on that profile. So you need to make sure you have the right keywords in your profile. Only then will you get found.
Excellent.
All right?
And what's a good place to start with these keywords? Is it the same thing for Google in general, like the keyword tool, or?
I would say I would first I'd Google for job descriptions. And you can always highlight everything within that job description and paste it into Wordle.net. That's a word cloud generator. That'll give you an idea of what the most weighted, the most important words are. So that'll give you an idea.
Wordle.net?
Wordle.net, WORDLE.net. So that's one way of starting. The other thing is look for people who already hold that position and look at their profile and go through and see what words they use. And that'll give you another, idea of what are those big keywords that you need to have reflective in your profile.
Yes, no, that's great advice. And going back to the idea of these academics trying to get business jobs, is there anything else besides keywords that might help? I mean, should they list their publications, for example, in a corporate job?
Well, you know what? I think the one thing, in addition to, our LinkedIn profiles, we also help with, resumes and stuff. And so I've seen a lot of academic resumes, and they're long. There's a lot of minutia in there. And so I would have to say you have to be careful. All right. So, if you're an academic and you're looking for another academic job, then of course you're going to post all of those publications. But if you're an academic and you're going to a corporate type of setting, you might want to be a little bit more selective, and you might want to edit it down a little bit. All right. So maybe instead of having, 50, maybe you have your top 5 or your top 10.
Yes.
All right. So be careful, because in the corporate world, they're going to look at it and they're going to be overwhelmed by the sheer amount. So just be careful and really present the best, the top. And then, of course, if that's something they're really interested, you can always submit, a document with everything listed.
No, that's great. And, it comes back to your theme, right? Be strategic. So that makes sense. So what about the headline? These two sections, the headline section, the summary sections. I got a lot of questions here. They're very different. I mean, in terms of utilizing the word limit, I mean, what ideally should we be putting in these two sections?
Sure. So, think of the headline as a headline in a newspaper, right? It should compel a person to want to read more. And yet, most people just utilize the default LinkedIn setting, which is your last job and the company. Is you really want to create a headline that, of course, states that the title, because that, at least, the title that you're aiming for. You want to have some keywords of some of those top skill sets, those top keywords, and you want to have a benefit statement to really show how you help. And so that's really what you want to do, but you only have 120 characters, and so it's really, really hard. What I always suggest is just visit my website, linkedin-makeover.com. I give away my LinkedIn headline generator, which is a guide, and it gives you the 5 steps that you need to do to generate a really compelling, really interesting LinkedIn headline. But it helps you find your top keywords, your benefit statement, and it allows you to get something that's really interesting and compelling.
Well, great. Thank you for that. So that's at linkedinmakeover.com.
Yep. And you just look on the right-hand side. There's a little picture of the LinkedIn headline generator. Just put in your email, and I email it off to you.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, Donna. And so this is a question that I'm very interested in, hearing your response to. We have a lot of people, we work with PhDs, and sometimes they go on to do multiple things. They go on to do side consulting gigs, have more than one job, basically. How do you present this on LinkedIn? What's the best way to present, if you have multiple things that you're doing together so that it's not confusing?
It's first you have to make sure that all of those current gigs, all those current jobs make sense on your LinkedIn profile. And so I often get calls from people that they'll say things like, I'm a financial advisor, but I'm also a yoga instructor. How can I tie this together? And I'm like, well, let's leave the yoga instructor to Facebook or Twitter, and let's just concentrate on the financial advisor for LinkedIn, because that's where your audience is. That's what they care about. And so the first thing I would absolutely suggest is making sure that all of those different gigs make sense for LinkedIn, or is there another social network that would be better suited for them? All right, but once you know exactly which ones make sense for LinkedIn, then what you need to do is, you put them all in as current experiences, and the one that you're spending the most time, the one that, gives you the greatest amount of satisfaction, that's the one you move to the top, and the other ones you have underneath, and you can rearrange those sections of your profile so you can, drag and drop the experiences in the right order as long as they're concurrent. But within the summary, you do want to make sure that you weave it together and you make sense of it. You don't want a person to read it and go, gosh, do they have no focus? Are they really, are they spreading themselves too thin? You don't want them to think that. So you really want to make sure that you're weaving a story that shows that you have passion and you have ability to do all of the work and that you love doing it.
My last question, we've talked a lot about what to do or how to use these different tools, and just, to more of a fun question, what are some of the, maybe the strangest things you've ever seen, some of the, like, don't ever do this things that maybe you've seen on LinkedIn?
Oh, my God. Well, it always comes down to that profile picture. The smartest, most high-level people will post the most frightening pictures of themselves on their LinkedIn profile, and it always amazes me. But yeah, I would highly suggest really going to a professional photographer and having a headshot taken, one that really shows you in the best light, and using that as your profile picture, because this is how you're presenting yourself to your audience, to your network, to the world. Because anyone can find you on Google, and so these are the eyes of the world are on you. You really want to make yourself look great. So definitely go to that that professional photographer and invest in your brand, really. And you want to look professional, you want to look smart, you want to look engaging, you want to look friendly. So make sure you smile. And, please do not have your kids in the picture. Do not have any animals or pets. Do not use a cartoon character. Do not use a company logo. You want it to be of yourself, and you want it to be closely cropped around your face. So definitely zoom in.
Great. Thank you very much, Donna. This was very, very, very insightful. Lots of great tips. Your website again, LinkedInMakeover.com, right? And
yeah,
LinkedIn. You give a book?
Well, it's LinkedIn. You can get to it by LinkedIn Makeover, but if you hit LinkedIn-Makeover.com, that'll take you directly to the website. And I also have a book available. It's LinkedIn Makeover, Professional Secrets to a Powerful LinkedIn Profile. You can buy a PDF version on my website, but you can also go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble and buy a paperback that way.
Excellent. Thank you, Donna. I appreciate you coming on, and we look forward to seeing you on LinkedIn.
Thank you. I look forward to connecting with you, Isaiah.
This is the end of this episode of the Cheeky Scientist Industry Careers for PhDs podcast. Hopefully you learned a lot of strategies from Donna on how to create a LinkedIn profile that industry hiring managers and recruiters will be able to find and will engage them so that you can get the industry job that you want. If you want to receive these podcasts, if you want them delivered directly to your email inbox, all you have to do is go to cheekyscientist.com and email subscribe on the homepage. Do this and you will get these podcasts are delivered directly to you. For those of you who are our Cheeky Scientist associates, as always, you will get our live webinars. You will have access to our live webinars, all of our training materials, and access to the full-length versions of these podcasts in your private dashboard and in your private online group. So if you associates have any questions, go ahead and go to the group, and we will talk to you there. For the rest of you, thank you for joining us for this podcast, and we look forward to having you on a future episode. Until then, remember your value as a PhD and start thinking and acting like a successful industry professional.